The White House spokesman said he expects the IAEA report to reinforce U.S. concerns about Iran and, quote, its failure to live up to its international obligations.
Because of the leadership of this president, we have mobilized the international community in a way that has never existed before to take action to pressure Iran, to isolate Iran. We now have in place the most aggressive, isolating, and debilitating sanctions regime ever.
Let's do this. Let's discuss all of this with P.J. Crowley. He is a former State Department spokesperson. And P.J., great to speak with you. So let's do this. Let's start with the foreign minister's quote from Dorsa's report. We know the truth. Iran says that often. Iran knows the truth. Is Iran's truth as important at this critical moment in time as the growing storm clouds over the country's nuclear program in the West and even in some Arab countries?
Well, the dilemma is that Iran has a right to a civilian nuclear program, but it's the only country that is a part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, that has failed to satisfy international questions regarding the nature of its nuclear program. And there have been discoveries in recent years, a secret facility at Qom a couple of years ago, that are just fundamentally inconsistent with a peaceful nuclear program. And that's the indication is that the IAEA report will continue to highlight certain things that are just beyond what any civilian nuclear program would entail.
Yeah, and Iran also says that nations that are supplying the information are Western nations with sanctioning the country right now. Is Iran correct in suggesting that so much of the information is being supplied by Western nations? Does that in any way cloud the findings of the report we'll get tomorrow?
Well, certainly, a lot of countries, the United States and others in the region, including neighboring countries in the Gulf,
Absolutely.
are fundamentally concerned about the nature of Iran's nuclear program. The last thing that anyone wants to see is a nuclear arms race around the Middle East. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of intelligence services around the world are appropriately focused on determining what's happening in Iran and sharing that information with the IAEA.
Let me get to a lot of the conversation over the last couple of days, obviously, in this region. In your mind, does Israel really want to attack Iran's nuclear sites? And will the conclusions reached in the report that we're likely to get tomorrow be used, in your opinion, as a pretext to launch an attack on Iran's nuclear sites?
Well, let's start with the basics, that if Iran becomes a nuclear power, that will be a fundamentally destabilizing act in the Middle East. And so as the international community, including neighboring countries in the region, evaluate the implications of Iran fundamentally going beyond its obligations and, in fact, crossing that line between a civilian nuclear program and a military program that calls for an aggressive response by the international community. Now, on the one hand, can military action be among those options? It can, and appropriately so. That said, is the military option ideal? It is not, by any means. And quickly you can envision scenarios that will spin in a lot of different directions, none of them leading to stability in the region. So this is the conundrum that the rest of the region faces.
But if we take events where they are right now at this moment, and Iran is not a nuclear weaponized country right now, and the conversation is about if Israel is moving closer to this idea of an attack against Iran's nuclear sites, I guess my next question is the President of the United States and his diplomatic team in a position politically to stop that from happening?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily just put this in the context of Iran and Israel. I know that presents one possible frame in the region. This is fundamentally about the international community and a move away from nuclear weapons towards a different kind of world that all of us would occupy, not just those in the region. But obviously, this is something that is of great concern. I think the United States today has said that it plans to rely on sanctions to find ways to continue to put pressure on Iran. That does not necessarily involve the United States the United States has basically sanctioned everything it conceivably sanction in Iran, but certainly you look for other countries, particularly in Europe, that would be in a position to put increased pressure on Iran to demonstrate that it, in fact, has a civilian nuclear program that's peaceful.
Yeah, P.J., good to speak with you. P.J. Crowley for us. P.J., great.